Welcome everybody to the University of Applied Research and Development Educators podcast. It's our privilege to have Dr. Shannon Doak with us. He's an educational technologist at Hawaii Preparatory School. Delighted to see you, Shannon.
Nice to see you.
Why don't you tell us about your role and what you do?
So I work with the administration, teachers, and students at my school to basically impact the educational environment by the use of technology to make sure that the teachers are implementing certain skills. We focus on the 4 C's of education, which are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And so technology can support all 4 of those. And so I work with teachers and students to make sure that we're implementing these types of learning environments that help build 21st century learning skills.
And how long have you been there?
I have been at this school for 4 years.
Okay. So what makes someone an educational technologist?
So, a lot of people ask me, they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm an educational technologist. And they go, what? My role didn't actually exist when I was in school. I've been doing it for, let's say, since 2010. Before coming to Hawaii, I worked at the American School of Guangzhou, same capacity. My title was a bit different, and I only worked in the lower school. But same kind of thing. I help teachers integrate technology in their teaching. So I think if you want to know what does an educational technologist do or what is an educational technologist, it's really simple. You look at the term, educational and then technologist. Education is first. We are always about improving learning. It's never for the sake of technology. We never say, hey, you got to use this tool. This is the best thing. Check out this new, amazing thing. It's, well, what are your learning outcomes? And let's see if technology can improve. Sometimes it can't. Sometimes you have to use that older tech, that pen, that paper, whatever, cardboard, whatever that you're going to do. If technology, the high tech doesn't improve it, there's no sense to implement it. So an educational technologist looks at the learning environment and then tries to apply a technology tool, a process, or an innovative teaching practice in order to improve the educational environment for the students.
So coming out of the safer at home lockdown type of environment that different countries are in, leading up to this, there were some emerging technologies, some things that were developing and starting to show real promise. Where do you think things are going? What would be some technologies you would like to trial and experience to see their impact on learning outcomes?
I think with this impact, I think a lot of schools are now being forced to consider the blended learning approach, where even in a brick and mortar school, face-to-face environment, teachers and students are using technology tools such as Zoom or other online tools that allow them to enhance the learning that's happening in the face-to-face environment. And so I believe that blended approach, the idea of flipping a classroom, might become something that more teachers are probably going to look at doing. And the reason I say this is because there still could be that chance of they come back to school, we're doing face-to-face, and all of a sudden there's another breakout, and we have to go back to online learning. Now, if you're already doing some of your teaching in an online fashion, then that flip is going to be easier. If you're not using the tools, then what happens is you get this, now I got to do this, and it's stressful for the teachers, it's stressful for the students, the parents get all stressed. It's not an authentic learning type of environment. So I think what's happening, as I'm hoping, is that teachers are going to understand that, even though they learned a whole bunch of awesome skills during these past few months, that even if we go back to a face-to-face environment, that the skills that they learn can still help them in their daily teaching. You can still use technology to expand the communication within the class or outside the class. So you're having a discussion. You can use technology to continue that discussion at home. Podcasting. You could listen. Students can podcast their understandings about their learning and share it with an authentic audience. And what this does is it creates more ownership within the student, because they know that this information that they've created, whatever their learning is that they're sharing, they're not just sharing it with their teacher, they're sharing it with a wider audience. And because of that, they're more motivated to do a better job. I've seen it 100 times. An example of this is here at the lower school. We use a platform that is kind of a learning journal. And when the students are creating their posts, they know that their parents, their grandparents, their aunties, their uncles are going to see this. For a lower school student, say in kindergarten, second grade, third grade, that's an authentic audience. It's someone that's meaningful to them. And so I've seen 100 times where I'm working with the kids and they start doing stuff. And then I'm like, okay, now take a listen to it. Do you think it's ready? And they will, on their own, listen and go, yeah, no, I'm going to do it again. And are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. It's not the way I want it to be. They have that ownership. They take that as their own and they make it better because they know someone's listening to it. It's not just for the teacher. So they do a better job. So I think if teachers can understand this, and I think they are starting to understand this, and again, it's going to impact learning, whether that be in a face-to-face environment or whether that be online. And I have to say that because of having that learning journal in place before COVID hit, it made it so much easier to go to an online learning environment because we already had that tool that the kids knew how to use, and it was fantastic.
Learning journal. So what do you use? What's the structure? How do you make it work?
So I've used different things in different schools for this. In my last school, at the American school, we used, because in China, things don't always work like they do everywhere else. So we had a self-hosted blogging platform, and then we used a tool that was created by a teacher at another international school in China called Easy Blog Junior. And what that did was it allowed even 4-year-olds to take their iPad and create posts that would automatically be posted to their blog, their own blog. Parents would get notified. Parents could see it. They could make comments, and it really made the kids more invested in their work. Here at this school, we use a learning journal. It's called Seesaw. It's one of the best learning journals out there. Highly suggest it for any school. If you haven't heard of it, if anybody who's listening to this hasn't heard about Seesaw, check it out. I'm not being paid to say this. It's a wonderful platform, and they just keep improving. It's great. It's a fantastic way for kids to share their learning, and it's great for any level. You can do as low as kindergarten. It's that easy, or you can even go up to high school. It's not so simple that, or it's so childish looking that a high schooler wouldn't make use of it.
So I think if I understand what you're saying correctly, students have the opportunity to put their work out there in the public space, in a safe environment, though, to receive feedback, to receive comments from friends and family in the community.
Correct.
And this leads them to then review their own work and raise the standard of their output. So their learning outcomes improve because what they're doing is being put out there and they understand that. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right, yeah.
It's quite a powerful effect then if it's going to impact learning outcomes based on what they're producing.
Totally. And well, not only does it does it enhance their learning? It enhances the school-home connection, because I have experienced seesaw as a teacher, but I've also experienced as a parent. And let me tell you, when I'm sitting there at work and I'm like doing something, and all of a sudden I get this notification on my phone, ding, and I say, oh, look, my son just created something. It's directly from him. It's not from the school. It's from him. I take that time and I look at his post and I see what he's learning about, and I see his understanding. It makes it all visible. It takes his understanding and makes it visible to me and then to the teacher. And if there's something that's missing, I can see it, the teacher can see it, and then we can help that student move forward and correct any misunderstandings they might have. This is totally different than the old, let's just throw content at students and then we'll test them at the end and, oh, oops, you didn't get that. Oh, well, let's move on. This is more of a formative type of assessment and it's not, I wouldn't say that it's formal, but it's an informal way of assessing a student, but you can see the progress because you see their understanding. And if there's something wrong, you have time to fix it so that you can see a change in their growth as a student over time. And that's another thing about these learning journals that work really well, is that it's kind of like a portfolio. And it's a great way to see progress over time. Things aren't going to be perfect. And that learning's messy. It shouldn't be perfect. But as long as you're starting to see that improvement as time goes on, you know that the kid's improving. He's learning. They're doing a great job. And then as a parent, I'm seeing these things and I'm going, wow, this is awesome. Not only do I have something when he comes home, I don't have to say, what'd you learn at school today? And he goes, nothing. I can say, hey, I saw that cool post you had. That was amazing. Tell me more about that poem. And then he'll have things to talk about. So this is the kind of thing that I think is very impactful, not just for the student, but for that connection between the school and the home that is a lot of times missing. We're getting a lot of information from the school coming home, but a lot of it doesn't connect directly with my child. I want to know what my child learned today. And well, what did you do at school today? Oh, I played, whatever on the playground with Johnny. But what about in class? Oh, I don't know. That's what you get if you don't have something specific to talk to them about. They're not going to remember.
I love that illustration about your son and getting the bing bong because he submitted something or handed something in or shown something. I think that's great because it improves the quality of the conversations that parents
Correct.
have with kids about their learning. I think that's a beautiful thing.
It
You
is.
mentioned some time ago in this chat about flipped learning or flipping the classroom.
Sure.
What does that mean?
So, flipping a classroom is not a new concept. It's been around for a while. And there's been a lot of different iterations, I think, that people have been trying to promote. And my first time that I experienced someone talking to me about the flipped classroom, I kind of was put off by it because they were basically just taking their lectures and recording them and putting them up for the students to listen to at home. And I was thinking, okay, how is this an improvement? A lecture is a lecture, no matter what platform it's on. So my understanding of a flipped classroom, and this is the thing that I think a lot of which they missed when they were talking about it. They missed the most important aspect of flipping the classroom, and that is you take the content learning and you put it at home, and that might be a short mini lesson about, I'm going to say, my wife is a Mandarin teacher, so I'm going to say maybe she's recorded her lesson on a specific grammar structure in Mandarin, and she has the students listen to her presentation on this. She might even have them answer some questions about it, whatever. That learning takes place at home. When the kids come to class, they apply that in an authentic environment where people are talking to each other in Mandarin, using the new sentence structures, using that vocabulary. They're doing things with the content. They're not learning it. They're actually applying it. And so the classroom becomes a fantastic scaffolded area where people can use the content in a space where there is a more experienced, knowledgeable other to help if there's mistakes made. It's not like sending work home and then they're trying to do homework and they don't get it, and they got nobody at home that's speaking Mandarin, so they can't help, and they're like, well, I give up. And that hurts their learning because they're getting frustrated. If you flip it and you have the presentation of the information, the content at home, and you have the actual doing work with the content in the classroom with the teacher there, they never feel that frustration because the teacher's there to help them through any issues they might have. And you can't expect at a school that all students are going to have support at home. So I feel that flipping the classroom changes that whole argument about homework being ineffective, because it's not homework, it's content learning. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch a couple of videos about the content, or I might read an article, or I might read a book chapter, or I might whatever, but I'm going to read that stuff at home, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to actually do something with that, you know, in the classroom. I'm going to actually experiment with that. I'm going to learn by doing. So I think that's where flipping the classroom is a really important aspect of changing the way we do things to make it more impactful.
Why don't you tell us about your doctorate that you did and what was your focus of that?
Sure. So I'm a big, I have always been a big believer in gaining professionally by connecting with other like-minded individuals. And so when I got into my doctorate, which is a Doctor of Education with a focus on educational technology from Boise State University, I was very interested in Web 2.0, social media, and how does that impact teacher learning, teacher professional development, and the pedagogical approaches that teacher takes. And so what I decided was I was going to study international school educators, because I worked in the international school field for over 15 years. And I felt that I feel that international schools are probably one of the most, for lack of a better word, they're very innovative. They most of them, you have a chance to try new stuff. And so I kind of felt like, okay, if there are educators out there that might possibly be using social media as a way to professionally develop themselves, they're probably going to be in international schools. So I went looking. And so I did a study that was, it was a mixed methods approach, where I had quantitative and qualitative data gathered. The quantitative data was gathered by a survey, and it was sent out, and over 400 people filled it out. And then from doing, from that survey, I got 5 people that fit certain criteria. And I wanted to interview them to find out, well, what are they doing? And basically what I discovered was that the effectiveness of professional development, most professional development, that we go to workshops, we have people come into schools, you know, they do a workshop that's very broad. It may or may not impact anyone. It might 2 people out of the whole school might go, oh yeah, this is great. The workshop, you go to this workshop and you're constantly taking notes and you're like listening, oh, this is fantastic. And then you do another one and you're, oh, this is great. And then you do another one, yeah, this is fantastic. You get back and you're looking at your notes and you go, what? I don't remember. Hey, what did this guy say here? I can't remember. And you can't talk to the person because you're not at the workshop anymore. So it's not really, some people might impact their teaching practice, some. But if you really want professional development to be effective, It needs to be really focused on what that educator needs, specifically for their classroom, their area of learning, teaching, whatever. If they're a math teacher, they're going to want math stuff. If they're a music teacher, they don't want music stuff. They're not going to want math stuff, right? So it has to be focused. It has to be targeted. So the only way that, and this is one of the things that I found out, is that if the teacher takes it upon themselves, they understand that their own professional development is actually up to them. It's their responsibility. It's not, professional development isn't something that's done to us. It's an active process that we take on as educators ourselves because we want to improve ourselves. And if we understand that it's an active process, that means we have to do something in order for it to happen. We just sit and listen. That's not going to help. I need to be able to get an idea. I need to massage it, move it around, do something, communicate with someone about it. And when I can do that through, and the reason I decided social media was because a lot of the schools that I was dealing with, the teachers are very, very, very isolated because they might be the only music teacher in that school. And there's not another music teacher. And who are they going to talk to? So what do? They get online. They get on Twitter. They get on LinkedIn. They get on Facebook. They join groups. They follow hashtags. They do Twitter chats. They do all these things where they can connect with other people, share ideas, share resources, have communications with each other about stuff that is targeted to their specific area. And when you do that, what they did was the people, and it's not that people use social media different ways. Some people, they kind of lurk and they're like this, kind of get information. But what I found in my study was that the ones that had the greatest impact on changing their teaching practice and then impacting their students was the ones who had a communication with other people, and they had a connection, and they were able to have deeper conversations about things. So that's what my study found, was that people who used it in a specific way, intentionally to connect with others, it impacted their teaching in a positive way. And it created a more constructivist learning environments for their students.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I noted down some things: targeted, ownership, an active process, it's ongoing, having a community to build those conversations. Sounds powerful.
Yes. Oh, it's very powerful. And the people I interviewed were amazing, amazing teachers, amazing educators.
Shannon, for those people who are looking to make educational leadership their track, lead change, lead schools, lead people, what would you give to them as some career advice or some wisdom to help them along the road?
I would say that, as with all, I'm going to say school it's a business, but it's not really a business of what most people would consider educating. It's a business of making connections with people. And I think relationships are probably the most important aspect of an educational institution, whether that be with the teacher and the student, the teacher and the parent, or the administrator and the student, the administrator and the parent, and the administrator and the teachers. These relationships, if you can create a culture of shared understanding, support, empathy, if you can create an environment where people feel valued, that is going to have a greater impact on anything. It doesn't, scheduling, all these other things, they're just part of it. You have to make that work. But if you have an environment where people feel valued and they feel like they are heard, and you have a good mutual relationship with those people, greater things will get done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Shannon, really want to thank you for your time. Appreciate you doing this in your afternoon,
Yeah, no
my
problem.
morning.